talking about things to do with electoral management. With me is Granville Abrams. His title, General Manager for Electoral Operations. A very, very big job, I want to assume. You are the man that is in charge of possibly everything that could go wrong. Just explain briefly to the viewers, what is it that you do as a general manager?
Yes, if one, thanks a lot for that question. If one looks at the electoral cycle, starting with legislative review, I also head up our election legislation task team. Then the defining of voting districts, the registration of political parties, voter registration, candidate nomination, which has led to this ballot paper, and then voting and results, some of the things, and also the conflict management program.
Much more relevant to tomorrow's operations, though, is the delivery of election material.
Yes.
That has got to be in sufficient supply. I hope I'm putting that in a not so clumsy way. Basically, we can't be running out of envelopes, as was said earlier in this media briefing by some journalists. You can't have ballot papers going short or going missing. Why does that happen sometimes?
Well, I think it's a very good question. First and foremost, we plan and we provision for nothing less than 100% at a voting district level, which is our planning unit. Yeah. So we have approximately 23,000 voting districts. And based on the voter numbers, we would provision at that level. We have a bill of materials, so ballot papers, envelopes in this case, all of them would be provided for expecting 100% turnout. I think in the instances that I've mentioned, and I think it's, well, obviously we should be held to account and held to a higher standard when it comes to elections. I think these are anomalies, yeah, which are indicative effectively of poor management. So it's person involvement, but the planning and the provisioning is based on 100%.
Who takes responsibility when poor management, as you say, becomes the result? Is it the presiding officer within the voting station? Is it the overall manager, the provincial IEC head within that province? Who takes ultimate accountability? Is it you or those people?
Well, I think first and foremost, we try and minimize anything going wrong, and specifically when it comes to ballot papers. Yeah. So for tomorrow, we will be able to see in the morning, because of what one of our applications called the ballot paper tracking system, we'll be able to have a desktop indication whether all ballot papers have arrived at that voting station. And if not, there will be an intervention instead of us waiting until we run out because everything had not been delivered. Similarly, when it comes to other items such as security items like the stamp, ballot booths, ballot boxes, these things are checked in the morning, and we do what we call a reconciliation of materials. So if you look at your ballot paper, your bill of materials actually, the presiding officer must check in the morning before it goes any further that all items have been received. But most importantly, obviously, the ballot papers and your ballot boxes.
Final question, talking about that election material. There was the incident in KZN where a political party intercepted the delivery of that material to a storage facility. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about the proximity of storage facilities to the voting districts or voting stations that are situated there. Has that been a difficult job? What do you make of that incident?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's important that viewers get the truth, because the narrative around this has been totally misleading. This is ultimately a logistical exercise. So we have 23,000 voting districts, And material has to go from a central point, first of all, our national level, down to our provincial warehouses. And because we do not have storage facilities, long-term storage facilities at local level, we hold back that equipment until the very last minute, and materials. So what happened in this case, in the case of eThekwini, and I happened to be there on Friday because I also went to their launch. I was at the warehouse. They ran a very, very smooth operation. First and foremost, the materials and the equipment for the furthest places like Newcastle, Richards Bay, that went out first. And the materials for the metro was held back at the very last minute to minimize risk. So in the metro, once again, we would have a number of voting stations. I think in the case of eThekwini, about 800 and odd. Now, all of these can't go to a single venue. So what we do is, in metros, we have what we set up sub-depots. And Hammersdale would have been one of those sub-depots. So the material was moved there in preparation for special voting and voting days. Nothing untoward. In fact, if you look at the footage, you'll see it's in boxes. It's not ballot boxes that have been, ballots at least, that have been opened and marked. It is being delivered and as it was intended. The act is totally criminal. First of all, that's a secure storage facility. They came in there unauthorized. They took footage and they created their own narrative around that and pursued the matter further, if one looks at social media, without any evidence of any fraud.
You say the matter is criminal as it unfolded. Has anyone been arrested?
I am not fully aware. The matter has been dealt with at provincial level, but charges may have been pressed. And obviously on the footage people can be identified. I must also say that we have raised this matter with the party in question, and they have disowned the people implicated in the picture, in the films, saying that these persons did not act on their behalf.
Wow. In Mpumalanga, the accosting of an official there, again similar, relating to voting material to a point where some of them actually even touched the election material. No other person is supposed to come into contact with that except the people authorized by the IEC, is it?
Yeah, I think that, no, what we need to understand, you know, when we come to elections, people tend to think that certain acts are election offenses. If it's criminal, as simple as that. If you obstruct the work of the IEC, it is criminal.
You will get arrested.
Exactly. And this is where our police have to come to our assistance. And in these cases, we would surely be opening up dockets and pursuing those matters further.
Finally, one question that arose in that media briefing is the question of misinformation, disinformation. You've just spoken about the one incident in Hammersdale where pictures are taken in order to create a narrative. How acutely aware are you about incidents like that? And how do you deal with it? How do you deal with it in such a way that people understand that it's criminality when you're going to do that?
No, thanks. We fortunately have a social media team monitoring, and even where they don't pick up, where things are brought to their attention, we will forward it to them, and we will respond to these things. We also fortunate in having good relationship with some of our our social media partners, and where necessary, we've been able to take down a number of these. There's obviously one social media platform that does not take down anything. That is a bit of a challenge, and where these issues are flourishing still. But our partners, our social media partners, they are fully aware. We actually even had workshops with political parties and all contestants in the run-up to this election with some of these social media partners.
Wow. When you say there is one particular site that doesn't necessarily take down these false narratives, What social media platform is that? Are you able to mention it, or would that be defaming
No,
the...
I think, no, not at all. I think it's public knowledge, you know, that the platform Twitter, formerly known as Twitter X, that's now called X, it's not very easy to interact and take down. I think that they have a policy of what they refer to as free speech, but I don't know. You know, sometimes free speech, as we have seen, can amount to misinformation or disinformation and even offenses. But there's difficulty in terms of interacting with that platform in terms of getting down these type of issues.